Hello everyone, this is Sudring Dragon, and I hope everyone's having a great 2026 so far, especially with regard to the new 2026 project and the merchandise that are coming out. And rest assured, I am going to be reviewing them when they are released. Now, going on to actually what I want to talk about, I want to give an update on what's going to happen to the channel. Now, first thing I want to talk about is how my life is going. So, I actually just finished college and I just got a new job at a manufacturing company. At the time of uploading this video, I will have started it. But even though I have a new job, rest assured that the channel is not going to be ending. I mean, seriously, I literally just started it. Why would I want to end something that I just started? Now, with the updates for the channel, I want to bring up my AU series, Sodor's Railways. I recently just kicked it off by creating a saga called the Exchange Trials series. Well, part 1 of it anyway. I am very impressed with the reception that I got from it, so thank you everyone. Now, when will part 2 of the Exchange Trials series be out? Not for a while. And that is for a few reasons. I want to focus on other decades, mainly the 1960s and the 1970s, because in my AU, there is a lot of drama that happens during that time, especially with diesels and the steam ban. And I'm also wanting to try and research some real-life railway stuff like events, practices, whatnot, just to implement them into my stories to give them a very realistic setting, because that's kind of what I'm going for my AU series. And then I also want to develop different types of characters, like Audrey's characters, TV series characters, hit era characters, and even All Engines Go characters. I also want to try and make some modifications to the timeline in order to make it flow better for my series. And especially with the new lore that's coming out by Christopher Audrey, you can bet that I'm going to be working a lot for it. And then the most important reason for why I want to take a pause for the Exchange Trial series is to prevent burnout. Now, I tend to push myself very hard sometimes, and sometimes this can cause me to feel burned out most of the time, so I'm trying my best to pace myself when it comes to writing my stories and working on my AU. So, but rest assured, I do want to make good videos for everyone. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are any stories that I'm writing or adapting. Well, I am playing a rewrite of one of the franchise's most controversial specials. Won't say what it is yet. Spoilers. And then, for any stories that I have written so far, I have a volume that involves Thomas, Duck, Oliver, Arthur, and Ginty, a Ryan and Daisy adaptation, an adapted story about Henry, James, and Edward, another adapted story about Donald and Douglas. I've also written a 98462 and 87546 story, a written story regarding Richard Audrey's Sodor in 2025 lecture, an adapted story about Bill, Ben, and the Flying Scotsman, an adapted flashback story about Hero, an adapted story about James and Spencer, an adapted Duck and Diesel story, an adapted Thomas and Percy story, and an adapted Duncan story. And I've also written Tug's adaptation of a Buzz book. Man, I really need to actually write my own original stories. Or rather, I need to actually put in more effort to write my own original stories. And I've also written up some non-canon stories too. I have my own take on a Season 21 Rosie episode, as well as my own take on Oliver's Fear of Fireworks and a Season 21 version of Confusion Without Delay. And finally, my take on a supposed Season 21 finale, because, let's be real, as much as I like A Shed Without Edward, no. And then I also have my own CGI, Thomas and the Evil Diesel story. And finally, I actually have a non-canon Tug story involving Puffa. Next thing I do want to mention is that I may want to do headcanon ramblings, like I may want to touch on these facts in later videos, or these facts could just happen off screen, or they could potentially be fever dreams. But the most important thing I want to do for my headcanon ramblings is basically explain how TV series characters like Emily, Nia, Rebecca, Rosie, Ryan, and Belle, or even Merlin are going to work in my AU, because my AU is mostly Railway series based, like a few other AUs I can mention. I'm also looking to remake free-to-adapt stories from authors like The Buried Truck, for example. I am really dead set on making a Dudley the Vagrant Engine remake, so I'd say be on the lookout for that when I eventually do start making it. Now, the last thing I do want to talk about is a pretty big one, and it's that I'm considering starting a Patreon. Now you're probably wondering, but you have a job, why do you want to start a Patreon? Well, for a few reasons. Those reasons being that I want to provide more for my family, as well as making some major changes for the channel, such as new editing software, new equipment for voicing and recording videos, and all that. Alright, that's all I have for today. If you want to ask me any questions or get in touch with me about my series, I would highly recommend that you subscribe to the channel, share the channel, or you can follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky, or you can even add me on Discord. All the links are provided in the description. Alright everyone, I will see you all later.